Hello,
Hello.
and welcome back to the arconsis stream. Today we have not like regularly a backend stream, but we have our special guest Jonas back
Yay. With iOS.
with iOS
Ah.
and Android and Kotlin
Yeah.
and Kotlin Multiplatform.
Yes.
So Jonas, what is this about?
Yes. So today I thought because I was working on a project that used this Kotlin multi-platform thing, it's a great topic to also show in our stream. And we will just take a first look what Kotlin multi-platform is, how to set a project up, just look through the code, make some small changes, add some dependencies, and then just get the basics today.
Sounds great.
Okay, then you can change the scene. We can have a quick look at the Kotlin website about multi-platform. So what is it? The basic idea is you have
Can you increase the font a bit?
maybe try this.
Yeah, nice.
Nice. Okay. You also then need to help me in the IDE to increase it because it's not Xcode and I don't know how to do it. Okay, so what is it? Is this like multi-platform or cross-platform approach where some more or less code is shared and is used by the different platforms. That could be iOS, Android, but also desktop, web. Today we will just look at the mobile part, the Android and the iOS.
Okay.
And it's also, if I scroll it down, what is quite nice. You may think, but we already have an app or two apps, one for iOS, one for Android, and we would need to start from scratch. But you can start from everywhere and just use it for a small portion of that.
Okay.
The shared part, like in this build here, where it's just one piece of the logic is shared, and then you can use that and then increase it more and more. But if you start from scratch, what we will also do today, you can share a lot of different things. So it starts at the very low level with data, the core, the networking, API requests, persistence, all these things. Then all your logic, business logic, can be shared. And you can even go higher, share the view models, presentation layer. And I think maybe it's down here with this compose multi-platform. Kotlin also introduced a way to also share the UI.
Okay.
Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I still like my iOS and my Swift, and I want to still do my Swift UI and
Yeah, I guess it always depends a bit for what you're building it for.
Exactly.
If you need like the super optimized UI for your platform specific customer, then definitely it's nice that you can use the native iOS and Android UI stuff. And if you have like an internal employee only app, then you can go like with Flutter or so.
Yeah, so this way you can compare it with Flutter, where you build the whole thing once and have it run on multiple platforms, with the difference here that it's written in Kotlin, so you don't need to learn a new language, a framework. But I would also argue it's not just the use case, but also the team setup you have.
That's
if you have iOS developers, I'm pretty sure they don't want to use this feature, and but that is what also convinced me about this approach. I can still write my iOS app the way I want and with the architecture I want and prefer, use the most fancy tools, architectures, and so on.
Animation,
UI, everything.
navigation.
Just I can decide what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then still below that have this shared layer, sharing all the networking and so on, what I already mentioned, which is always tedious to implement.
Yeah.
And where I think Kotlin provides even better frameworks, easier frameworks with less code, where it needs more work on iOS. It's also obviously super great on iOS, but Um, no, it's that
Yep.
that is super fine, and you have the full freedom if you don't share the presentation layer
Yeah.
to do your also on the Android side, they can do the way they want to use or create the Android app, and you then keep the developers motivated and that they have fun with the work and not have like a iOS developer having to use Jetpack Compose.
Yeah. Maybe one question for you as an iOS developer. Um, how different is Kotlin from Swift for you? Because I can imagine that would be an interesting question for a lot of iOS developers.
Yes. So at the start, it's a bit strange because it's very similar to Swift, but then also slightly different. It has a lot of this, for me, this special cases like data classes, and then you have, if you call a function, you have different ways how you can pass the parameters with the equal sign or not, and names and not, and so it's that's a bit strange and different to Swift, where you define how you want to have the function called. You can provide names, you can have different names as the parameter is called, and so it's very you see directly what's going on, and in Kotlin you have more options maybe.
Okay.
Then some of the functions on lists or so are called differently. So if you come from Swift, you know, okay, I have my map and my for each and my filter. I guess they're called similar on Kotlin, but not always. And then you need to find the correct matching thing.
I feel you. I have the same with TypeScript.
Yeah. And then the whole coroutine thing works a bit different on Kotlin than the async await on iOS.
Yeah.
On Swift. And also the flows that we used heavily in the project I was working on. It's also something you don't have used that often on iOS. And then there's some weird constructs like the sealed classes.
Yeah.
Till today didn't fully understood what it does. So why not just use an enum? I thought in Swift you can add values to enum cases. And for me, that was the explanation why you need the sealed class things to do a similar thing.
You can also do that on Kotlin, but it's a bit more powerful. But yeah, I would say you can use it, but it's also not like the first thing you will use when you start using Kotlin.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that was the first thing that we added. So I had to learn it directly. Okay, so what I will do is more or less follow this get started guide here now.
Okay.
So if you later want to test it yourself, you can also follow this guide. It's quite good, well written, and yeah, nice to follow. Okay, so first thing, what do you need to use Kotlin Multiplatform? I prepared already behind this here. If I this down, not this, but this too. So you need Android Studio, or I guess IntelliJ, and Xcode, and a working Java installation. And so Xcode you need for if you want to
do the iOS part.
Do the iOS part, and coming together with Xcode, you need Mac hardware.
Yeah.
So without Mac hardware and Xcode, you can still open the project, but just run the Android part and compile shared part, obviously, but not the iOS part.
Yeah.
So I'm running here my Mac. So I have both. You should also, if you usually do Android and just have installed Xcode just for the multi-platform part, open Xcode once at least, because it installs some additional stuff.
Oh, okay.
When I first started. So do that. And then in Android Studio, you need a plugin, which is called Kotlin Multiplatform Mobile. This one. So I already have it installed, but you can just press install, and then you have the full support, let's say. And they also mentioned that you should check that the Kotlin plugin is up to date. Looks like I have the latest version.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically everything you need. There's one more thing that you can only install on a Mac, which they called KDoctor, like Brew Doctor, I guess. You install it with Brew, and then this tool can tell you if you have all the components installed.
Okay.
But it's not that many, so you can do it without it. Okay, so that is the tools, and now how to set up a project. It's quite easy. When you have installed the plugin, you go to Projects, New Project, and then in the phone and tablet section, you find Kotlin Multiplatform app.
Okay.
I don't know if I can increase the font here.
In the
Already?
settings of the
Most likely not.
IDE, yeah, we will do it later.
Can I enter the settings already? No. So it just says down here Kotlin Multiplatform app. Okay.
Yeah.
So go next. I hope it's still readable. So it's just a few steps. You need to give it a nice name. So how do we want our first Kotlin Multiplatform application to be named?
Arconsis Multiplatform.
Is someone in chat that has an idea? No. Okay.
Coffee platform.
Yeah. So
for the right developers.
Let's call it I don't know, my application maybe.
Coffee app.
Coffee app.
We are developers.
Like this?
We feed on coffee. Yes.
Nice. Okay. Then down here you can, so you obviously specify the package and then where you want to save it. And you can decide which Android version to use.
Yeah.
I have no clue which one is the version to select. But what I found nice, something that iOS don't have, it shows you here how many devices approximately would run on it. So if
that's a nice addition.
This one, it's not that many.
Yeah, that's probably the newest.
Yeah. And if I go down, then I can see which one. So
yeah.
Since we won't do crazy Android stuff today, it doesn't really matter. But I found this super helpful.
Yeah, it really is.
How up to date it is. So it's like
especially in the Android world where you have versions sticking around for a very long time. That's really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, if it is updated regularly, I don't know where.
I think it is because Google knows the data from the Play Store.
Yeah. Okay, so I go next. Then the project is split into the different areas. So the Android app, the iOS app, and the shared part. And here you can specify how you want to name those folders.
Mm-hmm.
You can keep it like this. Maybe later can update it. You can also later then add more to your multi-platform project like web and so on. But
okay,
we focus on those. We can add a testing or not. We will not look into it today, so we'll not check this. And then the last thing basically is you need to configure how iOS will work together with the shared framework.
Okay.
And you can here choose between a regular framework and a CocoaPods dependency manager. So CocoaPods is one way of handling your dependencies in an iOS project. And it's still used a lot, but nowadays Apple has their own dependency manager, Swift package manager, which would be preferred. It's not available here, but there's a way to set it up also with Swift package manager. If you select CocoaPods, then you can also use later Gradle to specify iOS dependencies, which I think it's a bit crazy. I recommend going with a regular framework and don't use CocoaPods for at least for your first project, and then depends on your preference. In the project I was working on, we also didn't use the CocoaPods one.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an existing project or so with CocoaPods, then it makes sense to use CocoaPods to integrate it there. But if you set up new, that would be your recommendation.
Yes. Okay, so I press finish, and then I need to move this over here. So, whoa. Still getting used to this IDE. Okay, so this is now loading, and Gradle is downloading the internet.
Nice.
So you need to wait a bit until everything is loaded. Maybe while it is doing that, we can change
The font.
the font. Yeah. What do I need to do?
Yeah, I think in appearance there's on the right top.
Use custom font.
Yes, and use like
Good 18.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good.
Perfect.
Okay.
And in the editor, I think you also need to then also in general or font. Yeah, font. Yeah. Do it.
But there's 16 or 18?
18 you had.
So, and then maybe we make it full screen.
Yes.
Then we have the full experience.
Power.
Okay. So I opened a project before for this user here, so that we don't have to wait like 5 minutes or how long it takes to download everything. So now it already is done downloading everything, but the first time usually it takes longer.
Okay.
So then I switch the view to project. And then I have, for now we focus on the left side here. So maybe let me try this. If I make it even bigger, because it's just this what I'm interested in. It's maybe easier to see, and I will decrease it later.
Yeah.
So this is the app folder, and we will quickly go over that, and then make a short break, and then come back with the details how this works. So here you see basically the folders we named, and these contains the different areas. So the Android app is here. That creates a default Xcode project for the iOS app, and then in shared lives the
shared Kotlin code.
The shared code, exactly. And the whole thing is built with Gradle. So shared and Android use Gradle, and the whole thing is also Gradle project. So you have a Gradle file in the outer project, root project thing.
Yeah. One
in shared and one in Android. iOS does not work with Gradle. Has its own thing.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
And so in theory, you already are good to go and run the app. But we will do this in the next part.
Cool. So
maybe I can also do a quick summary, but not too much. Not too much yet. So if you want to use it, use Android Studio and Xcode, install the KMM plugin, and then follow the wizard to set the project.
Nice. Then thanks for this introduction to Kotlin Multiplatform.
The introduction is not over yet.
More to come.
Yeah.